Total War has many factions that we absolutely love, for a variety of reasons. Some are crazy overpowered, some are just super unique every playthrough, and some are just nostalgic. Well, my job today is to make as many of you as angry as possible. Top 5 most overrated factions. Just to be clear though, none of these factions I am saying are bad or useless or dull. I'm just saying they are not as good as a lot of people would give them credit for. Also, sometimes I may not focus on the entire faction, I may focus on something a bit more specific about that faction. Starting this off, number 5, we have Medieval to Total War, Byzantium. That's right, and remember, I'm not saying this is a bad faction, I think it is quite a good faction. Despite them having a lot of missile cav, which is a bit meh, I don't like missile cav. The reason why Byzantium is on here is I believe the faction is overhyped a little bit too much. Given that they are the successors of the Roman Empire, I think it is overhyped because of that factor. And it makes it overall a very replayed campaign. Yet, if you actually look at the roster, you know, there's definitely unique units in there that are interesting, but overall it doesn't stand out enough compared to the other factions. There's not really that much special about it, except for its name and its role, its position in the world. There, I said it. I know a lot of people will disagree with that, but that's just my opinion. Number 4, we have Rome Total War, the Seleucid Empire. Wow, there goes another 50% of the audience.
Okay, so the Seleucid Empire does have a very brilliant roster, which I previously may have overlooked. But, you know, I still think it is an overrated faction. Not because of the roster, but because of its campaign starting position. Many people will see its roster and see it as a very powerful faction. This point here is for those who are new to Rome Total War, which does not apply to most of my audience, I'm guessing, but there'll be some of you out there who it will apply to. If you are new to Total War, Rome Total War, you will see the Seleucid Empire as a faction with a very powerful roster and a massive starting position, making most people think that it would be a good starter faction, a good place to begin your first or second Let's Play. Oh, but it's not. And the Seleucid Empire, I am saying, is overrated by many people who are very familiar with Rome Total War, towards people who are new to the game. If you know how to handle the Seleucid Empire, then, you know, it's not overrated and it's actually a very overpowered faction. But if you are new to the game, then everything that you hear about the Seleucid Empire will make it overrated to you, if that does make sense. Yeah, the Seleucid Empire is not for the faint-hearted, but it's not a poor faction, and yet it's an overrated faction at the same time to new players. Sort of like with the Western Roman Empire, but to a lesser extent. You know, when you first see it, you think, oh, this is going to be a good campaign. You overrate it because of its size, its power. But when you actually get in there, oh no, you realise you've made a mistake.
Number 3, and I've gone for Medieval to Total War, Kingdoms, and the Spanish. The Spanish in the Americas campaign, you know, again, I'm not saying it's a bad faction, I'm just saying it's overrated. They're not as good as you think. Nostalgia may tell you that their gunpowder units just completely destroy the Aztecs with pikemen, and the Aztecs never stand a chance, but that's not true. The Aztecs do put up quite a good fight at times, and you will lose battles to the natives. It will happen. And as much as people think the Spanish campaign is an easy slaughter, it kind of is, but there's still a lot of challenge there, and I believe it is overrated because of that. People thinking it's more overpowered than it actually is. 2 honourable mentions now, and first of all, the Venerians. Very overrated. I don't know why people even bother with this faction. Number 2, and we got one that most people probably did not expect. Attila taught to war the Venerians, and at the end of the day, the Venerians become this economic powerhouse in Eastern Europe, which is really good. Overall, a very underrated faction in Attila taught to war. There we go. This is what the defeat screen looks like. What am I saying? This is Attila taught to war. You all know what this looks like. Everyone's had a loss at some point. What a joke of a campaign. And for the other honourable mention, we have Rome 2 taught to war, and just the Greeks in general. Now, the Greeks in Rome taught to war, the first one, were quite good. The phalanxes were brilliant, Cretan archers, very good rosters. But by Rome 2, the stats have changed a bit. Phalanxes are no longer as overpowered as they were in the original, and overall, that brings the overall strength of the Greeks down. Then you got Athens, which overall is just not as impressive as it historically was. Then you got Sparta, which by this point is just, a lot of people play it, but it's a shadow of its former self. And yeah, I just don't see much there for the Greeks in Rome 2. I do think they are very overrated, simply because their phalanxes got a massive nerf from the last title. Okay, now for number 2, we have a bit of a weird one. Then again, they're all a little bit weird, I think, but they've kind of got to be as well for this video. We have the Eastern Roman Empire as an overrated faction. Okay, and I know I said like 3 or 4 weeks ago in my underrated factions, that the Eastern Roman Empire is one of the most underrated because it is shadowed by the Western Roman Empire. There's one part about it that is overrated. I'm not focusing on the faction or the theme of a faction, I'm focusing on a small part of it. And that's the traits that they get in Attila taught to war. Yes, it does provide you with a lot of money. A lot of money. Even if you don't use the bug to get, I think it's infinite money or something, you do get a lot of money from this. And a lot of people tell me that it's not an underrated faction, it's actually just a normal faction, and a lot of people tell me that that makes it a very powerful faction. But you've got to remember, it's taught to war. Money, generally speaking, in most taught to wars, including Attila, is not that difficult to come by. Yes, having loads of money is good, and it does definitely help in the early game, but as the campaign goes through, and you get larger, by mid-campaign, the chances are your economic position is stable, and you don't have to worry about it at all. And that's why they're on here. A lot of people do really like the amount of extra wealth that the Eastern Roman Empire can bring in with Attila, but it's just money, and money is not that difficult to come by. Especially once you get, into the campaign, get a few turns through. Okay, now we have first place, the most overrated faction across all historical titles. And I've gone with Rome taught to war, the Julii. Now don't get me wrong, this, I overrate this as well. I played this faction more than any other faction. I love the Julii. But most of the reasons why is down to nostalgia. It was the first campaign of taught to war I ever played, and I think a lot of people are there too. You've really got to sit back and think about the Julii, and think about its actual position. I think it is brilliant, a brilliant faction, very well done, and perfect for beginners. It is perfect for beginners to taught to war. But after that, you've got to look at it this way. It's not going to be the wealthiest. because the Brutii are going to take all the wealth from, you know, Greek trade when they expand that way. The barbarians, yes, they're easy, but first of all, it gets dull. Fighting barbarians over and over again does get dull. At least with the Scipii, you know, you've got a load of opportunities to expand out into, and the Brutii, it's sort of like layered. You fight the Greeks, then you fight in Anatolia, and then you fight the Seleucid Empire. You know, you fight Dacia as well, and Egypt. You fight different enemies, whereas with Rome, unless you go on some different campaign, but those don't count, usually fighting against barbarians constantly, that does get dull. The second point is they don't reward that well. When you fight the Greeks, you take massive walled cities, but when you fight the barbarians, your reward is small villages, not that well developed. And so you don't, although you do take land much quicker than the other factions, you don't necessarily get more powerful because the actual settlements that you take are just not as good as what the other factions have close to them. So yeah, again, don't get me wrong, the Julii is a brilliant campaign and I do love it, but I do just think it's overrated because of those reasons. And I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me, that's fine. I expect this coming with a video like this. And I do expect dislikes as well, that's going to happen with a video like this. That's fine, I understand it. But still, it's one that I wanted to cover, and there's some points here that I did want to talk about and explain. But anyway, I hope you could enjoy it, and I hope to see you in the next one. I've been MELKOR, please do subscribe for more, please do share with anyone you think may be interested. If you have any enemies that are Total War fans, but love some of these factions, share it with them, yeah, get them annoyed. But in all seriousness, please do share my videos, it does really help me out quite a lot, especially in these uncertain times where ad revenue is dropping by quite a bit lately. Until the next one though, goodbye.